I want to find out what the strongest Zoan type devil fruit of all time is, because I absolutely love the idea of transforming into an animal, and who hasn't dreamt of that in their life? Yeah, nobody. That's who. Because literally everyone has had that thought, right? I'm not alone with this. But finding the best Zoan fruit has been a surprisingly hard question, because while this type of devil fruit was once the weakest and least relevant type of the three for a long time in One Piece, Oda has really given it a real glow up recently and has churned out broken fruit after broken fruit after whatever this is, where even our main boy himself here has been now revealed to have eaten a legendary god fruit, because yeah, that's a thing now. And so I've decided to rank all of these devil fruits a little bit differently, basing them on 3 categories: what power it gives the user, the maximum potential of the fruit, and how versatile it is. Because I think using these 3 criteria, I can somewhat narrow down what in theory should be the best Zoan devil fruit, starting with my favorite animal, the Buddha, because apparently human fruits count as animal Zoan fruits. I mean, I guess we're technically animals, but still a little bit weird. Now, in the series itself, you probably know that this fruit belongs to Sengoku, the former Fleet Admiral, not just Admiral, and all-around complete beast of a person. Which actually I think is a little bit of a double-edged sword in my opinion, because unfortunately we haven't seen him doing anything in general. I mean, the only time this devil fruit really gets shown off is once during Marineford, so I had to kind of generally scale it to other mythical Zoan powers to somehow manage to properly rank it. So let me just say out of the gate, when it comes to powers, this fruit is pretty cool. I mean, it allows the user to become a massive golden Buddha with really huge arms and then tiny little baby legs, which is actually kind of funny to look at. It's actually kind of disturbing to look at. Let me rephrase. It's actually kind of, now that I look at it, kind of like Wario, now that I think about it. Now, this fruit doesn't seem to have any obvious weaknesses, but again, we haven't seen enough of it to know if it's actually weak to anything in particular. As for attacks, this fruit lets the user unleash intense shockwaves on their opponents, and we saw it used to absolutely crush Blackbeard and basically Blackbeard's entire crew in one single hit. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I always felt that this force might even be stronger than the Quake fruit when Blackbeard tries to counter his attack, making these shockwaves incredibly broken. But then that's sort of already all of the powers we officially have on paper, so I'm kind of only able to give it 2 out of 5 stars here, since it's only really 1 transformation and 1 attack. However, I think it's pretty important to remember what this fruit is actually based on. Siddhartha Buddha, the Enlightened One. We're talking about a human who has literally ascended beyond human comprehension, and when you consider that, plus it's a fruit that pushed Sengoku to become not only Admiral, but Fleet Admiral, it may have some potential. Let's not kid around here. I guess what I'm trying to say here is I just cannot imagine a world where we've even come close to scratching even the surface of this fruit's true power. I mean, both Chopper and Luffy use their human fruits to do some truly insane things, which kind of reminds me, we don't even know what other forms of this fruit there even are. Like, is this golden mini-footed Buddha we see at Marineford, is that the full Zoan form? Is that the hybrid form here? I mean, with all of that in mind, I think it's pretty fair to give it at least a 3 out of 5 in terms of potential. And as for versatility, well, I think it's pretty simple. I mean, grow big and then use shockwaves. Those aren't exactly super big brain plays if you ask me. I mean, the hardest thing about this fruit is the fact that you can fit through small doors, and it does shine really bright, which I guess maybe is an upside. So I actually thought that it earns a 1 out of 5 in terms of versatility here. Now, with that being said, I do admit that this fruit may absolutely deserve a higher spot on this list at some point if we learn that Sengoku has some other sort of divine awakening that lets him pretend he's in another anime, growing like 100,000 arms like Hashirama or Neteru do with their Buddha-related powers as well, something like that. Maybe his awakening is just a giant golden Buddha statue, you know, growing to maybe the size of Zunisha or something. But still, it's a total of 6 out of 15 stars right now, and we're just getting started. The final fruit on this list, when I finished rating it, that one is a 5 out of 5 across the board, and easily, I think, the best Zoan fruit of all time. But before we get to that one, let me move on to the next fruit on this list, and it is literally my favorite devil fruit in all of One Piece of all time, which means that I hope you know that I'm not biased in this video, because I totally have to admit, I was very tempted to just put this fruit at the #1 spot. This fruit truly puts the mythical in mythical Zoan, which is, of course, the bird fruit model Phoenix. Yes. I want this fruit really badly. There was just no way that I couldn't put this fruit on this list, and I'm pretty sure a bunch of you are already typing in the comments to yell at me for putting it this slow, but listen, wait until I talk about it and the other fruits on this list, and then go yell at me in the comments. How about that? Again, I want to yell at myself because, again, I love this fruit. Now, when it comes to potential, this fruit has just a metric ton of it, and most of it actually ties into the powers as well. I mean, the user obviously turns into a phoenix, a legendary bird known for its intense flames, healing magic, and immortality. Excuse me? And let's just say that this fruit absolutely does it justice. With its mythical blue flames, the user can unleash both incredibly strong fire that hurts the enemies and also at the same time heal its allies. Now we know this because Marco has literally hurt Prometheus, Big Mom's fire homie, with his blue fire, but don't get it twisted, this fire actually doesn't technically burn, it just uses the force, I guess, literally, because it kind of just knocks things around. Like, I'm not quite sure how it works, but it seems to be that these flames are physically there. Like, that's why they're capable of, like here, deflecting cannon fire and King's flames during the raid on Onigashima as well, meaning that it has got some real firepower. With some truly awesome moves like the Phoenix brand, Undying Thistle? English is really hard. And the very aptly named Phoenix Pyreapple, Marco can defend his allies and then brutally take down opponents. When you're in the hybrid form, the user then turns into the Phoenix itself and actually just gets better Logia powers than the Flame fruit if you want to boil it down. At least when it comes to defense, because we see that the flame body the user gets acts very similar to Ace's fire body as well, but unlike a Logia fruit, the Phoenix body can also heal itself even when the wound is actually inflicted by Haki or Sea Stone or something. And for me, that's already insane. I mean, Logia users normally crumble and cannot heal damage inflicted by sections of a Sea Stone weapon or strong Haki to their real bodies, but Marco just fully heals after these attacks are no longer making any contact with him. If you've played any games online, you know that this ability to passively heal is insanely broken, right? I haven't even talked about arguably the best power he gets as well, flight. I mean, it's pretty simple when you really think about it, but it really makes a huge difference, especially in One Piece. The user can dominate land and air with its power, letting them scan the battlefield to attack enemies, heal their allies, and just fly away and escape if ever necessary. Plus, in a world that's like covered to like 99.9% in water, the true weakness of devil fruits, having a way to avoid the ocean and just fly to locations is just a major plus in my book. But I have to say, what is for me holding it back a little bit is that it's very complicated to use and has also some major stamina drawbacks, it seems. Because despite having all of these crazy powers, they do have their limits. Even though I said passive earlier, the healing powers aren't technically fully automatic or passive, meaning that you kind of have to intentionally heal yourself or others around you. I mean, you can put the flames there, but you know, the intention needs to be there. Honestly, this point is a little bit confusing because here it does seem like it may be automatic when used on others, as we see here in Onigashima when Marco holds off the Ice Oni disease with his flames, but we do know for a fact that it doesn't work that way with Marco himself, at least. We're specifically seeing him constantly heal major wounds, but then choosing not to heal small scratches, cuts, and bruises because of stamina limitations. Because in Wano, it's basically confirmed that this power is directly tied to his stamina. He's no longer able to heal after holding off King and Queen simultaneously, so while the power, yes, is broken, it is not too broken because it is not automatic and limitless. And that was a lot of explanation, but for all of these reasons, I will give the Phoenix fruit a 3 in potential and a 4 in terms of powers. Which now leaves us with versatility, and based on the projectiles, powers similar to Logia fruit users, and the transformations, this fruit absolutely deserves a 3 at least in that category, which may seem low until I cover the other fruits on this list. You will see why it is that way. But hey, still a whopping 10 out of 15 total stars, which is a massive leap from Sengoku's Buddha fruit. Now, you might have noticed that I've only been talking about mythical Zoan fruit so far, which I mean, is that really that big of a surprise? I mean, yes, technically all Zoan fruits have crazy potential, and I certainly wouldn't complain about being able to turn like into a, I don't know, a leopard like Lucci, or even an ancient Zoan like a Triceratops, but come on, let's be real. If you get like a mythical animal plus what's basically a free Paramecia or Logia fruit power on top of that, I mean, those are gonna be the absolute strongest, especially when they are literal God fruit. Which of course begs the question, what other gods are there still left to cover? I can think of one for sure, as can you, but are there seriously 2 more on this list? Well, I'm not gonna keep you waiting because the next fruit is absolutely going to surprise some of you and is probably a little bit controversial. Again, I really wanted to make a case for Marco to be in this position on the list, but I hope you'll see why I really felt that it just barely edged the phoenix fruit out here. Which just leaves me with one question. Who let the dogs out? It's Yamato, that's who. Now, the next fruit on our list is Yamato's dog fruit, model Okuchi no Makami. This mythical ice wolf demon is said to be the guardian deity of Wano Kuni, but I think it's actually more like its secret weapon. I'm gonna say screw Pluton or Kazuki Odin, this wolf is definitely the absolute craziest thing to have come out of Wano, and I will explain to you why. Because this thing is literally a combination of some of the strongest powers in the series. The user for one obviously can shred their opponents with wicked fangs and sharp claws, but they can also control the power of ice. What? And I hear you guys saying, Manu, did you not take any basic physics or chemistry? Fire melts ice, and the phoenix fruit should definitely be above this. To which I say, I was never that great with chemistry or physics, and while you would be right if this was the real world, you are very wrong when it comes to One Piece, because for starters, Marco's flames deal force damage, not fire damage. They're kind of closer to Sengoku's shockwaves than they are to Ace's actual fire. But on top of that though, let me point out that we actually see Yamato use this ice power to completely slow down and stop the flames threatening to destroy Onigashima. Oh, and the ice breath attack known as Namuchi Hyoga, the ice fang, can even rival Kaido's blast breath, a literal flamethrower capable of destroying massive buildings like the castle here with absolute ease. So that's what we're dealing with. And speaking of Kaido, he does set the bar for how strong the defenses of this fruit truly are as well. You might have forgotten at this point, but Kaido hits harder than nearly every single character in the series so far, and even his attacks were nearly stopped by the Ice Mirror Mountain, a shell of ice that forms around the user, absorbing the damage from attacks. What a sick power. This defensive shell and its offensive powers are just incredibly strong, and I haven't even talked about its super special bonus effect yet. It's able to freeze water. As I previously mentioned, anything that can help a user avoid the ocean and drowning is a super important and broken ability in One Piece, and this bonus effect really boosts just how useful this fruit truly is. And actually, when I went back through the manga to check on the other bonus abilities that this fruit has, I realized it can do something that most other Zoan fruits actually can't, because the user can also combine their ice powers with their hockey-infused attacks, creating super-powered weapons, punches, and claws that truly shred through their opponents, which is such a cool and creative way to use this devil fruit. And as much as I love Marco, this extra strength level is something that I truly think helps separate it from Marco's Phoenix fruit, giving it the slightest of edges when it comes to potential. I think it definitely easily deserves 3.5 stars in that category, and as for powers, with the Mirror Mountain, incredible flame-stopping ice, and a super-powered hybrid form, I think a 4 out of 5 is a very fair rating here. And yet, I must admit that compared to the next 2 big entries on this list, it doesn't quite have the most impressive versatility. Yes, it really enhances a strong fighter, but it doesn't spread too far out in terms of adding additional skills and powers that can then be used in very complex ways. So I think kind of similar to Marco here, a 3 out of 5 in versatility is this fruit's absolute peak. That's of course only until Yamato shows up with some crazy ice weapons or freezes an entire island like Kuzan does, but still, 10.5 stars total is absolutely impressive for this devil fruit. But do you want to know what's even cooler than Yamato and the Okuchi no Makami? Joining the Ohara Patreon, we've got ice cold benefits like early chapter reviews, exclusive content, and high quality downloads for our custom art assets like this really cool devil fruit rotation animation we did for the intro of this video. Plus, if you join today, Yamato will personally come to your house and give you a big old hug, and who wouldn't want that? But we have a couple of fruits left, and they really are the creme de la creme. Our next devil fruit, for example, combines some of the coolest things in the world into one divine beast. Chinese gods, Gyarados, and laser beams. It's time to talk about the fish fruit model Azure Dragon. This fruit belongs to Kaido, the king of the beasts, and Momonosuke, and you all kind of knew that this was gonna be in this video. It lets the user turn into a massive blue, or I guess also pink, dragon that can do so many crazy things. Fun fact too, it's based on an ancient Chinese tale of carps that would swim up waterfalls to become dragons at the top, which may be the inspiration for making Wano country surrounded by massive waterfalls with, you guessed it, koi fish, and again, Gyarados and Magikarp, same thing. Now, right out of the gate, this thing is getting a 5 out of 5, easy in terms of power. Okay, where do I even start? Kaido can use this fruit to fly by creating flame clouds crawling across the sky. Keep in mind, these clouds are capable of lifting an entire freaking island, and it just kind of happens in the background while he just uses all his other abilities. So it's passive, it seems. Next up, with his blast breath, he can destroy mountains and towns, and the blast alone can deal enough damage to heavily wound even a marine admiral, as shown by Momonosuke when he attacks Admiral Yokugyu, and he probably hasn't even mastered it as well as Kaido did, making it also the least environmentally friendly fruit and one of the strongest at the same time. Also, just on a quick side note, the user can also cover their entire body in flames hot enough to melt Onigashima. Like, oh, this fruit is absolutely too hot to handle. Now, of course, it's capable of way more than just firepower. The dragon here can fire off sharp wind blades, create twisters, and has scales strong enough to resist any attack that isn't infused with absolutely advanced Conqueror's Haki. To put it into gaming terms, this is a literal raid boss. It has a damage threshold and ultimate moves. Now, when it comes to potential, it has a ton as well, of course. It controls 2 elements, not just one, wind and fire, and has incredible forms that range from a massive dragon bigger than a small island to the coolest looking hybrid form of all time. Seriously, look at this thing and then tell me again that you don't like how this looks. It's just so freaking cool, man. Now, I can confidently give this one 4 stars in potential, and the only reason it won't get a 5 here is because of how insane the next fruit on this list truly is. And that form actually really helps when it comes to versatility because it eliminates the weaknesses that I mentioned earlier with, for example, Sengoku's fruit. Because I think the biggest flaw this fruit had when I really broke it down was just how big the full Zoan form truly was. But since the hybrid form keeps a ton of the power and lets the user be relatively small in comparison, you can basically access the immense strength of the Azure Dragon in enclosed small spaces without being too big of a target at the same time. That really helps this fruit earn a 4 in versatility. Seriously, that's a whooping 12 out of 15 stars in rating, so what in the world is gonna outdo it? What's gonna get that perfect score? I have no idea. But before we can go to that, let's cover just a few honorable mentions really quickly here. Orochi's Yamato no Orochi fruit is based on one of the coolest Japanese myths ever, and its powers are truly very impressive. But also, seeing as it was very easily defeated, I couldn't properly give it a good ranking compared to the Fleet Admiral's Buddha fruit, for instance. Then Katarina Devon's Ninetales fruit may actually knock Sengoku off the list once we see what it's truly capable of in the series. I mean, its shape-shifting powers are truly terrifying to begin with, and I'm also assuming it has a true hybrid form similar to Yamato as well. Which now brings us to the fruit of the hour, the true god of the One Piece world, the warrior of liberation himself. Let's talk about the single most flawless devil fruit, the human fruit model Nika. Yes, I know, there was just no way that this was not gonna make the #1 on this list. I mean, I sat down to think about it for probably about 2 minutes, and I just couldn't find a way to warrant anything else beating it. Let me just say out straight, it got 5 stars across the board for a total of 15 stars, and it's pretty obvious why. I mean, the Nika fruit allows the user to sculpt their own body and the world into anything they can imagine. With its slapstick 1920s rubber hose animation vibe, the user bends reality like it was a Walt Disney or a Looney Tunes cartoon. Since getting this ability, Luffy has used it to grow into a massive giant, make a fist larger than an island, grab lightning from the sky, and turn the earth into an entire trampoline. Really, it's been so recently that Luffy has gotten his fruit, and I could already make a list of tons of things that Luffy has done with it, but that's the real beauty of this fruit, I think. Go to any chapter or episode with Luffy in it, and you will see just how wild this gets. Turning his legs into a helicopter with Gum Gum UFO, or unleashing the devastating Black Mamba in Gear 4. The true power of Nika has absolutely infinite potential, unbelievable abilities, and it's just the most versatile fruit on this list for me. Pretty much the only limit to it is the user's imagination. And if you want to know more about zone fruits, the origins of all devil fruits, or which ones are actually the most broken or secretly underrated ones, I think you would absolutely eat up my ultimate devil fruit iceberg video, because it's really crazy just how deep the rabbit hole goes when it comes to these fruits. Otherwise, thanks so much for watching, shout out to the Patreons, and as always, I will hopefully see you in the next one. Maybe you got to clean or something. I mean, this is like over an hour long, and you can just listen to it in the background as well. All right, I'm out.